Next time, we'll be tackling 5Ds. I've watched a bit of 5Ds. Luke hasn't.
I watched 2 episodes.
There you go. But you know, we all know the decks. We all know the 5Ds deck, so that's gonna be a good one.
I'll study up. I'll brush up my knowledge.
We'll watch the whole 200 episodes before we do the next video. Hey guys, Sean here. Today, Luke and I are back with another tier list. Today we'll be continuing the best anime decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! By ranking the best 5Ds decks. So without further ado, let's get into it. We have some tiers here. We have 5Ds Nuts, Damage Step C Moment, Rev It Up, Loki Kinda Trash, and Unfortunate Fairies. So let's begin with a decent one. We have Stardust Dragon. So we're differentiating between Stardust and Synchrons because they are, pretty different. Obviously Synchrons are more good for generic synchro stuff, whereas Stardust Dragon is, has a lot of very specific Stardust support. As the synchro guy, what do you think?
I think it deserves to be a little bit higher, maybe Damage Step C Moments, just because not only does Stardust Dragon have a bunch of support for its own archetype, but also the fact that it's also generic enough to go into other decks as well. For example, Axel Stardust Dragon that was only released recently in Maze is an amazing card, able to be put in loads of different decks. It's an easy way to go into Barone as well, so I think Stardust is really, really good. I would put it definitely where it is right now. Don't think it's top tier, but still very high.
It's also very iconic. We can't put the main character's deck in any lower than the second best tier, I think.
Exactly. And by the way, Stardust is a really good card in itself.
Yeah, that's true. It defined its format,
Yeah, it's a staple in Edison decks, so.
It's pretty cool how the first main synchro card that comes out when synchros come out is one of the staples, because you usually see power creep coming in where the first Link card that came out is not good, but the first synchro card that came out was pretty good up until Xyz came out. So Stardust Dragon, pretty cool. Next up though, we got the fucking best deck, Red Dragon Archfiend. I'd say it's probably better than Stardust Dragon.
In terms of a deck, yes, probably. In terms of actual monsters, I wouldn't say so, but we're ranking on decks here, so yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so obviously the structure deck came out and made this deck actually playable. It has gotten some tops. It has good synergy with a lot of decks like Bestials, which is really cool. Just in terms of coolness, it's such a cool deck, and I'm glad the deck kind of stuck to its original idea of being just really strong, really powerful, breaks boards, doesn't really set up a bunch of negates, it's all offense, which is very Jack Atlas.
Yeah, big beatdown.
Yeah, and just, it's just a cool card. Even Red Dragon Archfiend on its own, another great Edison card, another great card of its time. And in the anime, obviously Jack Atlas, Giga Chad, he deserves to be next to his homie. Next up we have Black Rose Dragon, or the Rose Dragon cards. They're alright. I think they're really cool. Obviously Black Rose is probably the best synchro card out of the 5Ds era, just because it's actually insane.
Yeah, it's great. To have a complete board wipe is really, really good. And also, much like Stardust, an absolute staple for Edison format. So Black Rose Dragon is a definite must. In terms of the deck around it though, I don't know if we can say much. It's definitely a cool, fun deck to play. I think it has a lot of potential, but I don't know if it is as good as the other two that we just talked about there.
It was top tier in Duel Links though, that was great.
Oh, hell yeah, this is the Duel Links channel now.
And obviously, Akiza, best girl from 5Ds.
That is true, that is very true.
But we'll put her here for now. Next up, we have the best deck in the game, Morphtronics, or Power Tool, but obviously the guy who used it used Morphtronics to go into Power Tool Dragon. Yeah, this thing sucks. The thing is, it's not Morphtronics, it's just Power Tool, and Power Tool has 2 cards, has Power Tool Dragon and Power Tool Braver Dragon. They're pretty cool because they work around equip cards, which, it's one of those mechanics where it's very hit or miss. It's either the best thing in the game or really shit.
The Power Tool Dragon is a great monster. It was played in Noble Knights and even some Infra Noble Knights deck. But again, we're looking at this as the deck around it, basically the archetype around it. It's not really good. It synergizes well with decks that rely on equip spells, but in terms of its own sort of standing deck, I don't know if it's even in Rev It Up. It might be in Loki Kinda Trash.
Yeah, I think you're right. But hey, it's an Art Machine.
That's true. Okay, just for that, put him up.
Let's go. Okay, next up we have Ancient Fairy Dragon. The card alone is pretty good, and it's more relevant now than it has been in a while. It's more relevant now than just these cards on their own. Came off the ban list, has a pretty strong effect.
It's errata though, so I don't know if it's as good as Black Rose, to be quite honest with you.
That's very fair, yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking like pre-errata, great, but we're also thinking like decks now.
And this is not really a deck at all.
Yeah, it's not really a deck at all. I mean, yeah, it's a cool card. It was better back in the day, but just having its errata, and it's not exactly a staple of Edison or anything like that. I don't think it's as good as the Black Rose Dragon, but still great card though.
Now here we go. Here, I mean, this should be a C moment, but it's like way better.
It is way better. It is, although Black Wings will always forever be a C moment in their hearts, they have surpassed and really proved that they still have strong contention even in today's meta, because Blackwing's got a whole lot of support in Darkwing Blast, and although Blackwing decks nowadays look absolutely nothing like they did back in Edison format, it's still Blackwings at heart. We love them. They're top tier.
Okay, now we have like a real deck. We have Synchrons. Synchrons are very good. Synchrons are just probably one of the best like generic Synchro decks. They can just do crazy stuff because it really only restricts you into Synchros. So it's just a toolbox for any good Synchro cards. And there's a lot of very good Synchro cards. Yeah, Synchrons are really cool.
I put up higher, to be honest with you, just considering the amount of things you can do with this deck. What I really like about the deck is, although the core really stays the same no matter what, you can really be experimental with your extra deck, in the sense that if you want to go down the Crimson Dragon route, you might be adding a bunch of really powerful Synchro 12s or whatever. There's just so many different ways you can play the deck. You can play it control, you can play it beatdown, you can do anything with the deck, and I really like the versatility of it for that. So I think it's definitely up there. I don't know if it's as good as Blackwings. It can still do a lot of cool stuff, but I think Blackwings are just a little bit better. I think the thing that makes Synchron so good is that they can use a lot of generic stuff. The deck itself, using Synchrons, they're not the best, but their generic stuff that they can add is what makes it really good. So I think it's just being 5B's nuts probably.
Next up, Earthbound Immortals, a very topical pick because they just got support in the new Maze set. I think they're going to be decent. I think they're better than just like Stardust on his own, obviously. I think they're going to be alright. I think they're going to be pretty cool. The new spell card, which allows them to fusion and synchro at the same time, that's pretty crazy. The new fusions and synchros are actually very strong. Even back in the day, if you play by playground rules and your opponent just normal summons an Earthbound Immortal, you can't kill it and it can just attack you directly. And you know, this is a subjective tier list, so that means it goes pretty high up. I think they're pretty cool. I think they're pretty like intimidating monsters. Obviously, they were not very good before, and they're only like okay now. They're not like meta, but they're very cool. Like, I'm glad the support actually made them like a playable deck, gave them some very unique like stuff. But I think they deserve it. They're a really cool like kind of villain archetype. So yeah, I think that's fair to keep them here. Here's a bad deck. Here's a low-key trash deck, Ally of Justice.
Okay, Catastro's great. Well,
Catastro's
we can't
good.
deny that. Catastro is a staple of Edison decks, which I know we're saying a lot, but this is genuinely a really, really good card. The deck around it just isn't too good, I'm afraid. Yeah, like the funny thing is, I don't even think Catastro is like the main like boss of their deck. It just so happens to be one of their lower ranking ones that ends up being really good. It's kind of like reminds you of TG Hyper Librarian. TG Hyper Librarian is not the boss monster of the deck. It was just a really, really good card to saw play elsewhere. The same could be said for Catastro. Catastro's a great card. Deck around, just not so good.
I think they have one other good card. It's like it's a hand trap that can either banish like 2 lights or 2 darks from your opponent's grave. I think it's 2 lights, so it was really good in Drytron format. So you just banish your opponent's lights in the grave as a quick effect from your hand. But you know, that time is come and gone, and Ally of Justice is not very good. But you know how it is. Morphtronics.
It's morphin' time.
Let's go. Okay, I love Morphtronics. Their aesthetic, their design is just so funny because they're just like appliances come to life. They have some of the dumbest mechanics because like they can always just do some dumb stuff. They're always part of some like bullshit. As we know, Morphtronic FTK with Telephone, that's some funny stuff right there. Other than that, they're not very good. But you know, they're better than Power Tool, and they're cool, they're charming, you know. They're a nice deck, you know. We like to see Morphtronics. They're wholesome, you know.
We have fun.
Exactly. Fortune fairies, no, fortune ladies, because fortune fairies are different. They're okay. They're better than Alive Justice. They actually have some like unique stuff, right? They like level modulate. They gain effects based on their level. They can synchro. Their synchro monster is pretty good, and they also can like draw a million cards. I was on the back end of this once where my opponent just drew like 10 cards against me, so that was pretty tough.
Man, Maxi without Maxiing.
Honestly, like, so who needs Maxi? It's a cool deck. I like the idea of it. It has some really cool cards, but you know they have not stood the test of time, and even back then, I don't think they were that good. We have Fleur.
Keep forgetting this is an archetype.
Yeah, so just for like Barone on its own, I think it deserves to be pretty high up. The archetype is bad, but Barone the Fleur is like the best card in the game. It's one of the best. It's probably the best synchro card in the game.
Yeah, when you see the amount of like one card combos that can get into Barone, it's absolutely crazy. The fact that like they still have a monster that's literally played in almost every single deck is insane. Archetype though, still not good, so do you really think it should be better than Earthbound Immortals?
Probably not.
Yeah, so let's put it down for that then.
Maybe about here.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's probably not as good as Stardust as well.
Yeah, Barone like picks it up a lot, but not too much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Reactors. They have some very cool cards, but this is not a deck. It was a deck in the anime, but it's just not a deck in real life. They have like 3 cards, and one of the cards doesn't even work with the archetype. They have like big flat top or whatever the fuck it's called. It's supposed to special summon this dude from your like deck or something, or your hand or grave, whatever. But just because of like the mechanics of the game, it doesn't work, which is very funny. But this guy is super cool. I had a copy of him when I was younger, and he's like impossible to summon unless you have like the other reactor cards. But you know, he's 3k and he like burns and he can pop cards and stuff like that. He's really cool. I love the design of all these cards. So they're just big kind of like robot, like tank aircraft carrier things. But they're very bad, very fucking bad. But they're super cool, so you know that's why you're not in bottom tier. Next up we have Mech Lords. They're okay. Okay, let's be honest, they're probably better than Wolftronics.
How dare you?
Yeah, fuck it. Yeah, they're alright. So yeah, Mech Lords, you know, they're a cool archetype. They're very anti-synchro, but we've gone through many synchro formats and they're just not good enough. Even as an anti-synchro deck, they're not very good at countering synchros. They're cool. They're a cool archetype. They look very cool. They were like the main villains archetype in the anime, but they're just not that good. Maybe at a time, maybe at one point they were all right. But the new support they even got is just not very good. But you know, they're cool. Their design's very cool, so we'll give them that.
If there ever comes a format where synchros are like top tier meta again, maybe this deck might shine, but for the time being, definitely not.
We have Benson. We have Iron Chain. This deck was used by like one guy in the anime, and it can bring out like one decent synchro guy, but it's not really a deck. It has like maybe 3 cards, and I don't think half of them are in the actual game. So yeah, I like this dude though. He's pretty cool, and his synchro is like not bad. Yeah.
I'm not a fan of him because I don't like how he kept yelling at Mordecai and Rigby. But,
that was pretty cringe.
That was pretty cringe of him. But overall, deck sucks.
Time Lords. Okay, we know Time Lords.
Oh my god. The amount of times people play this on goddamn Nexus, it is so goddamn annoying.
What about Master Duel, man? People on Master Duel play this deck all the time. It's so bad.
Dude, I've been playing Nexus longer than Master Duel. This is just so bad. I know the suffering. It is horrendous. Unless if your deck has like an obvious like negate, like inbuilt monster negate, you're not getting over these things. They're so annoying. Sure, they go back into the deck during, I think it's your standby phase or whatever the hell.
I think it's their standby phase, so like your turn ends and then they go to their turn and then it goes away and then you just normal summon another one.
Yeah, it's so goddamn stupid and annoying. Yeah, I just don't like it. It kind of reminds me of a Gren Maju type deck. It doesn't really take a whole lot of skill to play. It's just one of these decks that can win, but when you do win with them, do you really feel proud?
I hope you don't. Alright, next up, Fortune Fairies. They're pretty bad, but at least there is like a bunch of cards compared to Iron Chain.
Yeah, I quite like the design because I pulled a lot of it in, it was in Shadows of Valhalla. I like them for that. They're cool looking.
Yeah, that's about it. Next up, this is a weird one. Noble Knights. So, in the context of the anime, This is just like the Synchrons to the Fluor deck. Like what Synchrons are to Stardust is what the Noble Knight is to Fluor. It's not like modern Noble Knights, so I don't even know if we should like say, oh, like Noble Knights now are like really good. I really don't know, because obviously no one plays this card in actual Noble Knights. So yeah, it's like, it's whatever, you know.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. What we'll say is Noble Knights still suck. Infer Noble Knights are great. These are Noble Knights, they suck.
I guess that's fair. Alright, TG. TG is a weird one, right? Because TG obviously has some very powerful cards like Hyper Librarian, stuff like that. They even got new support, which is supposed to be very crazy, but I'm pretty sure that new support has come out and I've not heard a single thing about TGs.
I was kind of hyped for it a little bit because I've seen some of them can do some crazy stuff. I think it should be up there. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for them. But yeah, just the fact that they still have one of their guys limited, I think is crazy. So I think high rev it up is where they belong.
Next up, Infernity, a fan favorite. Everyone loves some Infernity. Maybe like here? Nah, probably here.
Yeah, it'll be better than Earthbound Immortals, I'm pretty sure.
Infernity is pretty good. Obviously, everyone loves spamming Trishula. Everyone loves having no hand. It's a very cool gimmick. Obviously, some crazy like combos you can do with it, like endless combos. It's a very cool deck. Obviously, power crept in the modern day. Infernity Archfiend was unlimited recently, so the deck might come back, who knows. But yeah, it's a cool fan favorite deck. It had its time in the sun. I'm sure this is a very divisive deck, because the people who play it seem to love it. The people who played against it seem to hate it. But as a deck, it's pretty cool. Next up, we have the Aesir, like, you know, god deck.
The Nordic gods.
Yeah, Nordic gods. Pretty good. Probably better than these guys. Yeah, they have like... They've got a lot of support over the years. Their like main boss monsters were like pretty good enough to where Konami just basically gave them support to get them out. They even have a new trap card, which like basically is a skill drain, which is pretty insane.
The deck main monsters are goats. That means they are the GOAT.
That is true, okay. Yeah.
Therefore, it is the greatest deck of all time.
I think you're 100% right.
That's just common logic.
Honestly, like, I can't argue.
Yeah.
Malefics are really cool, but they're not very good.
Yeah, I think Malefic in theory is pretty cool. I like the idea of bringing back like older monsters in order to kind of give them a new spin on things. Like, it gives you a reason to run Blue Eyes, it gives you a reason to run Cyber End Dragon and stuff like that. Having said that though, you need a good bit of setup in order to pull this deck off, and even when you do, there's lack of protection for them to actually be like towers or anything like that. So the deck is easily beatable. It is not the greatest deck. It is a fun deck. I don't think it ever did anything crazy when it came out. It probably just remains a fun gimmick that you can play, but not necessarily a really good deck.
I thought it was very cool though that you can just like banish cards from your extra deck to summon the corresponding Malefic monster, which is really cool. So, you know, if you have Malefic Cyber End in your hand, you just banish Cyber End from your extra deck to summon it, which is, you know, a free 4k guy. Only problem is you need to have a field spell on field, otherwise it dies. So it still is very cool. I do really appreciate the archetype, the design. It's just a really awesome deck. Obviously in the best Yu-Gi-Oh movie, Bonds Beyond Time. It took 3 main characters to beat this deck, so, you know, must be pretty good, right? And then next up, to end it all off, we have whatever the fuck this is.
Oh, it's a Reptilia thing?
Yeah, like Reptilia or whatever.
Yeah.
Bad. So that's it for the list. Let us know what you think. The order of this list is a combination of, you know, like competitiveness, nostalgia, just general like coolness, you know, how like good they were in the anime and all that stuff. But we consider a lot of factors here. I think competitiveness is the main like driving force. I do think that Blackwings are the most competitive deck out of all these decks. You can make an argument for Synchrons, you can make an argument for Red Dragon Archfiend, but I think overall it's a pretty like good list. Of course, because it's our tier list, so of course it's the best.
This is gospel.
So let us know what you think in the comments. If you missed any decks, let us know. So yeah, like the video, subscribe, thanks for watching, and more content on the way.